Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everybody's morning is off to a great start. I'm thankful to be in the land of the living this morning. I'm thankful to be amongst the living this morning. I'm thankful that God woke me up this morning and He gave me another chance. So, real quick, I got a word for y'all today. The word for today is coming from Nahum. However they pronounce it, Nahum, okay? We're going there. In the first chapter, and I just want to read the second verse. The Lord is a jealous and avenging God. The Lord takes vengeance and is filled with wrath. The Lord takes vengeance on his foes and vents his wrath against his enemies. So we commonly hear about God being a jealous God, but what does that mean? Is that just, or is that verse, or is that scripture that we keep coming across? Does that mean that God is just jealous? What does that mean to us? Like, how does it relate to us as children of God and understanding what it means when it says that God is a jealous God, right? And in particularly in this scripture, the Lord is a jealous and avenging God. The Lord takes vengeance and is filled with wrath. Guys, we have to understand when they say that God is a jealous God, right? When they say that God is a jealous God, what are they saying? When they say that God is a jealous God, it means essentially what it says, but how does that apply to us? How it applies to us is this. God is our creator. So he expects, right, to be number one in our life. Not number 5 after your job and your parents and your kids and bae and your boo. God ain't feeling that. Let me tell you what it means. And it's a serious thing. What it means when it says that God is a jealous God. What it means when it says that God is a jealous God is this. When we bypass God, right, in our love life, when we bypass God and we go put other people on a pedestal, when we bypass God and we give our hearts to other people, places, and things, when we do that, there are consequences for that. A lot of times what you will see with God, what he'll do is the very thing that you love so much, right? You'll find yourself stripped from that. The person that you love so much and you're so comfortable with, you'll find yourself unexpectedly stripped from that person. Why? Because God is a jealous God. And so when we put other people, places, and things before God, and in the place of God, right? What we do with those people, places, and things is we feel like we don't need God. When we find somebody that we feel is safe to love, right? When we find those people and we let our guards down and we build long-term, strong relationships with these people while disregarding and neglecting our relationship with God, what we find is that one day we look up and we've been stripped of those people. Why? Because God is a jealous God and he needs to teach you a lesson and help you to understand one of the fundamental principles of being a child of God. And one of those fundamental principles is this, is that you don't put anybody in the place of God and you don't put anybody before God. There is none like him. And so as we go about our life, we're human. So it's natural and it's typical that we are going to want things and people to love, right? And that's okay because the scripture clearly tells you to love your neighbor and so forth and so on. You see these scriptures all throughout the Bible about loving others, and that's okay. But as we choose to love others and as we seek to find others to love, right, we got to be real careful that we don't put anybody before God, whether it be your mom, whether it be your dad, whether it be your husband, whether it be your wife, whether it be your children, whether it be your stepchildren, whether it be a good friend, whether it be a special friend. It don't matter who it is. We don't put anybody before God because God is a jealous God. And so what that scripture and what the word is for today and what that scripture is telling you for today is this, is that it's okay to love other people. That's actually what we're supposed to be doing. But it is a dangerous thing to put people, places, and things before God, because when you do that, you're setting yourself up for a hurt that words cannot describe. When you have gotten yourself to the point where you believe that it's okay for you to disregard God, it's okay for you to love other people, it's okay for you to build these long-term relationships with other people, but you don't need to build your relationship with God, that's a dangerous place to be. Because you are putting your stock in something that is temporary. God is eternal. And so when you choose to love someone with your whole heart while disregarding God, you're setting yourself up for That's fatal attraction. That's a good way to put it. You're setting yourself up for a demise and for a big fall, because you're going to find that the thing that you love so much, the person that you love so much, the place that you love so much will be stripped of you one day. And it's all to bring you to a point to realize that you can't make it down here in this lifetime without giving respect and reverence to certain fundamental principles as being a child of God. And one of those being this: there ain't nobody greater than God, and you are not designed and you were not created to love anybody, any place, or anything more than you love God. God is a jealous God, and what that means is make sure that before you go giving your heart to anybody else, make sure that before you go investing your mind and giving your mind to somebody else, you better make sure that you have sold your heart out to God. You better make sure that you have sold your mind out to God. Why? Because God is eternal, and he is actually the safe person to love. He is actually the safe thing to love. He is actually the safe place to love. He's everything in one. And so you got to make sure to guard your heart. And one of the best ways to guard your heart is to put your heart in the hands of the one where it's safe. That is your safe place. I always say that God is your safe place. So that's my word for today. God is a jealous God. And how does that apply to us? It applies to us because of this: don't love nobody, no place, no thing more than you love God. And before you go giving your heart to anybody, you make sure that you've already submitted and given your heart to God. And then it is safe to love others. But if you choose to bypass God and go to loving others, you're gonna set yourself up for some pain that is going to break you. So get ready for that. And if you have not experienced that, you have enough time. That's great to go back and change your ways and make sure that you start your days with God. Make sure that you start when you get off of work. Make sure that you're spending your time with God. Make sure that you give God your heart before you go picking up your phone to call your boo, or call your bae, or call your kids. Make sure that you are locked into God first and foremost, right? And then we go to other people and other places and other things, because God is eternal and he is your safe person to love. I am Grace Amber. I'll be right back on tomorrow with another word for y'all. I love y'all.